Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I am the Crypto Crow, and today we're going to talk about a topic that I think is going to be really relevant and really important as we move further into 2023, into 2025, and of course into 2030. And I think that these projects are basically being set up for a heavy spike in the crypto financial district. And we're going to go over about some of this stuff right now. So what we're talking about is the ISO020022 adoption program. Okay, now before we get too involved in this, for those of you maybe that are new or you don't really follow crypto that much, I mean, ultimately this money transmittance, remittance, all that stuff, that basically large sums of money are sent internationally through like bank wires and things like that can take weeks. And you know, ultimately, I forget what the total sum is. I'm thinking it's somewhere like $4 trillion, maybe more. I don't remember specifically. Might be a lot less than that, actually. But basically, the amount of money that is ultimately capital being restricted from use because it's tied up in the middle of a transfer from point A to point B. Okay. So while this money isn't active and it's not being utilized for anything, it's losing its value in a sense. Okay. You know, if you send, $1 billion from one country to another country and it takes 3 weeks for that transaction to go through at an insane high fee, well, not only is that transaction costing you an abundance of money, but you're not making interest on it. You're not generating revenue with it. And it's a big problem, especially as the economy continues to move towards this digital economy where we're getting rid of all cash for the most part. We're heading more towards these, when it comes to banking and finance, we're heading more towards the adoption of a lot of these centrally focused, these centralized ledger systems, these blockchains that are able to send value from point A to point B really quickly, almost instantly, at very reduced fees. And it's becoming a thing. And if we look at groups like the World Economic Forum, they have, of course, been very bullish, especially more recently as they're diving into the metaverse and other things. But they've been bullish on a handful of projects, some of which we're going to break down here in this video. And the one pattern that I'm noticing is that the World Economic Forum's kind of stamp of approval is generally on more centralized blockchains. The most transparent ones, the better, and ultimately those that are more venture capital controlled. I mean, that's not mean anything. I don't know, but we're going to dive into this a little deep now, and maybe we'll answer some questions here. So get ready for March 2023. High quality payments data is becoming a reality. March 2023 marks the start of migration to ISO 20022 for cross-border payments and reporting, with a coexistence period with MT messages until November of 2025. Basically saying that between now and 2025, or what I believe is likely going to become the peak of the next market, if we have a quote unquote peak before another significant bear market, we could just go on for 10 years, as I've been saying, for probably a year and a half or two now. Because as the adoption for a lot of this stuff really comes to fruition and the major changes in the markets have taken effect, we've ushered in, things like this ISO 20022, as well as everything else. The regulatory standards are raised, there's more regulation in the space, so forth and so on. We might not see a stereotypical bear market after this one. We could just kind of go up and really start to go for like a decade, okay? As we saw with the NASDAQ early on back in like 2007 and so forth. So that's just theory. I don't know if that's going to actually happen, but that's kind of where my head lies. It could be that way. However, we're going to see significant migrations to this new standard by November of 2025, which means a lot is going to change between now and then. I think we're going to see a lot of change in the CBDCs and the adoption of those. We're seeing country after country after country announcing their potential adoption of CBDC tokens, this centralized digital banking currency. And I think it's only going to grow from there. The question is that which of these protocols, which of these blockchains or ledger systems are going to be utilized and adopted in this grand change as we head towards 2025? So 222 for crypto. Are cryptos ISO compliant and can be used by banks? This is the primary question. Which of these blockchains can ultimately be utilized by the banking systems in a safe and secure method by which those regulating the space can monitor it effectively and then make problems go away, I guess you could say. So this is actually written out by Femex, and as we know, is a leverage trading exchange. But as any major leverage trading exchange, they're going to want to keep their eye on compliance, regulation, the changes in the industry, what's coming, what's happening. So I actually was pretty grateful to find this article because it breaks down quite a bit. We're not going to go over the entire article, but we're just going to basically go over some of the finer points, paint the picture, and then let you dive in and do your own research from here after I pointed you in the right direction on what to look for and what to think about. ISO, International Organization for Standardization, is a non-governmental global organization based in Geneva, Switzerland. It's funny, all this stuff is coming out of Switzerland. ISO develops international standards for industrial, commercial, and proprietary use. If an ISO standard is established, virtually all financial institutions in the world adopt it. An ISO code for Bitcoin, or BTC, could facilitate global mainstream adoption more than any other action. ISO has largely ignored cryptos until the last few years when CBDCs started gaining momentum. Currently, financial institutions rely on the ISO 4217 standard to identify currencies for global transactions. For example, the US dollar is assigned the code USD in this standard. Given the lack of ISO codes in the crypto world, cryptos currently use unofficial ISO codes, such as XBT for Bitcoin. However, in the new ISO 20022 standard, cryptos would be assigned ISO codes if they are compliant with ISO 20022. This could lead to adoption by centralized banks and enable cross-border crypto payments through centralized financial institutions. This is going to be a really big deal, especially as we usher in the tokenization of traditional stocks, which we all know is happening. And a lot of these changes are going to play a big role on global markets. Like I say, at some point, we're going to have centralized exchanges that are enabling the trade of traditional stocks as well as crypto on a 24/7 international market. And a lot of these standards are going to be playing significant roles in what ends up on the bus. What purposes do ISO standards serve? Through its standards, ISO aims to promote international trade and protect end users by ensuring the products being made are safe and acceptable quality. I also think it could have some things to do with control, centralization, venture capital interest, corporate interest, and so forth and so on. But that's just theory. To date, ISO has set over 20,000 standards and continuously updates them by releasing technical reports, analysis, and publications. I shouldn't say that. I should say that a lot of the projects that are basically tapped in and said, okay, you're good, almost like a game of duck, duck, goose. I think those are some of the metrics that I believe are going to play a significant role. And to some degree, I understand it, because if we're talking about international security as it relates to finance, we want things that we can control. If we're going to send value to point A and B, we want things that we can control. If a bad actor in the space somehow manages to get their hands on something, we want to be able to pull that back maybe, or correct it. This is different than the speculative, more use case friendly cryptocurrencies that are playing a variety of different roles. This is specifically for banking and finance on an international level. So you have to understand that. ISOs and catalog of standards include 97 fields covering healthcare, agriculture, engineering, shipping, weaponry, metallurgy, and more. The global financial industry is one of the many industries for which ISO sets standards. What is the role of ISO 20022 in crypto? A crypto that complies with the ISO standard could be approved by a centralized bank that enables crypto payments. ISO standardized crypto identifiers are going to change the way crypto is issued. If ISO issues an official code for a crypto, such as Bitcoin or Ether, that crypto will enter the database tables on top financial services like Visa and MasterCard. Basically saying, if you want to be able to make international Stellar, XLM, I was extremely bullish on Stellar. Again, an underperformer. The majority of these tokens, with the exception of like two, have been really underperforming in the last bull cycle. Now, we could ask ourselves a question and say, well, is there a reason to that? Have they been, for whatever reason, suppressed for any number of reasons by people in a position to be able to suppress the pricing because they don't want things to take off yet until, you know, more people that are decision makers and bigger whales and, you know, I don't know, until they're able to get in and be able to establish themselves as significant holders for the future use case, performance and you know, adoption of these things. That's where my head is personally. You have to formulate your own conclusion, but ultimately Stellar Lumens is basically like the decentralized version of Ripple, and it didn't do that well. It hasn't been doing that well. ADA currently trading at 38 cents. $13.1 billion market capitalization, $381 million a day in trade volume. Significant supply, obviously, but we've learned that with a high of $3.43 in the peak of the last cycle, nothing's holding Cardano back, and it's gaining ground each and every day. It's gaining new wallet, new adoption, new dApps, new applications, new development milestones, new teams, new partnerships, all sorts of stuff. This is only the beginning. We're going to continue to move much, much further. But Cardano is rumored to be compliant with this standard. And it makes sense that it would be, quite frankly, even though it's decentralized instead of centralized, and it's not venture capital controlled like the majority of a lot of the stuff that I see mentioned more often than not when it comes to these new standards or World Economic Forum. I mean, I know at one point, and maybe they still do, World Economic Forum talking about Solana, basically getting that touch of approval from an organization, yet you know, it can't keep up. It can't keep running. It's VC controlled. It's very much a centralized project. I mean, it's just garbage in my opinion. And there's significantly better technology that deserves the attention that Solana has received. The problem is Solana, as a venture capital owned project, in terms of the majority of holdings and things, they're pumping all kinds of money into trying to increase and build sentiment amongst the speculators who can boost the project's value up. And I still see that stuff today. And I'm thinking, you know, they've got about a year to calm down and cool down until 2024 in the next halving. I can't wait to see the number of people that buy into a lot of the big fake FOMO and hype that's being built up by these VC groups who basically put a bunch of money into Solana, and basically when the FTX debacle happened, drove all of their valuations down into the gutter, and so many of them lost money. How many of them had to liquidate at a loss compared to how many are still holding? I think there are a lot of issues to still be ironed out, but XRP, well, is with that. We're waiting on a court case to conclude. And I've had my theories about the court case. Currently trading at 40 cents. It was at 11 cents for like a year and a half, 2 years at one point. Now it's trading up to 40 cents with a little bit of a 6% dip in the last 7 days. You know, if there is a reasonable conclusion to this case based on facts and fairness, XRP could very well rule the world someday. I mean, it is very much a project where the technology is of extreme value in the remittance market, and the you know, basically being able to send value from point A to point B in seconds at minimal transaction fees. So we'll see. And Quant, I've done videos on Quant. It's a powerful project, currently trading at $142 with $1.7 billion in market capitalization. And, you know, the token supply of Quant is low, folks. 12 million right now in circulating supply. And the thing of it is I do not currently own any, but I want to buy some. I do want to buy some. When I start averaging in, I'm likely going to be averaging into quant as well, because ultimately quant is like this operating system that's going to enable the interconnectivity between all of these standardized tokens for global finance. And I think that quant is going to play a significant role in the global economy as we move forward into 2025 and 2030 for that matter. So quant is in my opinion a definite buy for those that can afford it and want to spend $142 on a token. And the rest of these could be fruitful in the next bull cycle. All of these are likely going to go up. It's just to what degree do they go up, and ultimately what is the use case that these subscribe to, that these basically tout as having and offering the world. And there's still so many questions, but I believe that a lot of these questions are going to be opened up and answered likely as we get closer to the halving in 2024, and we start seeing more of this regulatory, more of the regulations coming in and basically introducing themselves to the space. So, that's it. I just want to open it up to discussion and let people know, like, this is what's happening. These are the projects that are being talked about. These are the projects that are either compliant or rumored to be compliant. Some are confirmed, some are not. And there are going to be more, most likely, as a lot of the regulation starts entering the space and we start looking at what's popping. I think that once that happens, we're going to start seeing some of these really rise rapidly in valuation and market cap. And, I hold some of these. I hold some XRP. I don't have HBAR. I obviously, Cardano is my number one. I mean, above all else, Cardano is my number one. And, we'll see, but that's where it's at. And there's a lot of really good information out there for those of you that really want to dive into the nooks and crannies of this. And until next time, guys, crow your coins, and I'll see you soon.